Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Got a little bit of snow on the ground. I think 2 to 3 inches, 2.5 inches roughly. A lot of the places around the country, especially southern states that don't normally get a lot of snow, have gotten quite a bit of snow. And so the first part of today's video is just kind of a prepping tip, especially for you folks in the South, because we all know that you people up there in the Great White North deal with this all the time, like 6 months, 9 months, 10 months out of the year. I've been up there, so I know how it goes. This is, you guys running around in your underwear out and this kind of stuff. But for folks down south that don't experience a whole lot of white stuff, this is a great time to get out and test your gear, test your skills. It's a Sunday. A lot of you may have kind of a day off from work and stuff. And so I would encourage you, if you've got snow on the ground and it's cold where you're at, to kind of get out and, play around in it. Make sure you can start a fire in this kind of stuff. Pretty much everything's going to be wet and frozen. And so are you able to get out there and start a fire? Or, how's your gear work? You bought this stuff and it's supposed to be cold weather and waterproof. But is it really? Because not always what they say it is, well, it does. So get out there, and I want to encourage you to test stuff out. I've bought boots before that they claim they're waterproof, and then you get out there and you walk around and 6 inches of snow, and well, they're just not quite as waterproof as you thought. Or maybe they're great for cold weather gear, and then you get out there and it's not quite as good as what you thought it was. So I would encourage you to do that, because especially for you folks down south, here in the Ozarks, Arkansas, Carolinas, Virginia, I've seen, places like that. They've gotten some pretty decent snow in some of those places. Maybe you don't normally get it like that. It's a good time to get out and really test yourself, because like I said, we don't get it as much as our friends to the north, so we should take every advantage we can of when it does happen. And so that's my prepping tip for the day. Before I get started with the rest of the video, just want to mention, because this is gonna be important with the rest of this video. If you are needing to stock up on food and you're looking for that long-term emergency freeze-dried stuff, the kind of stuff you just put on the shelf and you really kind of don't have to worry about it, and it'll last 15, 20, 30 years. There's a link down in the description below with the company that I work with, My Patriot Supply. They offer excellent qualities, products, and their product, I believe, in my opinion, and I've done the research, is about the best price per calorie. When you break it down per calorie that you're getting about the best deal out there. So that's My Patriot Supply, link down in the description below. All right, we talk pretty often on here about the economy, about the supply chain, about stuff like that, because it's extremely important. And there's one subject that I haven't talked a whole lot about. There have been other channels. I know Ice Age Farmer has talked about this a lot, and he's an excellent source. And I think I saw Pinball Preparedness say something about this in the last day or two. But we're going to get into that here in just a minute. I saw some numbers. I'll put this up here on the screen. The sales were down in December. Retail sales were down in December. And that's bad, okay, because December is typically the month that retail sales kind of start to go into the black. They start to make their a lot of their sales, holidays, that kind of stuff, shopping, and they were down. But from my understanding of doing a little digging into this 1.9% down, that's not figuring in the inflation. So if the inflation has gone up 7% in December, and the sales went down, that means probably the actual sales were down somewhere around 9%, if what I'm looking at and have read is correct, and of course my hillbilly understanding. So nothing's getting better. The job numbers that we're hearing from the White House is that they're so excited that they've created more jobs than ever. They haven't created one single job, because all of these jobs that's been created over the last year are just people that are going back to work after all the lockdowns. And when you do the math, it shows that we're actually still short about 4 million of those jobs, the people that were locked down and lost their jobs. That's not even including any new jobs being formed. So we're in a real serious hurt in the economy. And what I'm going to tell you, if you're not already aware of it, well, it's just like icing on top of the cake. And you know, one of the things I push big on here, obviously, is stocking up on food, but also raising your own food. You can see some of my food walking around in the background, and in the garden, well, you can't see it from where I'm at, but it's over there, and that's something we talk about a lot on here because it's extremely important. And let me tell you, this year may be the year that you realize just how important it is to produce your own food and to have your own food stocked up. Fertilizer prices are skyrocketing, and they've been skyrocketing for a year now. Look at this chart here. This is a chart from 2021. We're in 2022. I know some of you still haven't started writing it down correctly, but we're in 2022, so this is last year. You see that purple line and you see the green line. That's from the last 2 years. That's from 2019 and 2020. And then there's a little dotted line. That's the 5-year average for fertilizer prices. Now look at that red line. The red line is fertilizer prices increase last year. Okay? They've skyrocketed. And they're not getting any better. And this is part of the reason we've seen food, but you know, with growing food, it takes a little bit longer to kind of see the effects because, you know, you have the whole year to grow it, then you have to harvest it, and they process it, and a lot of the food that was processed last year isn't really going to start hitting the shelves till like now and into the spring, you know, especially like canned foods and stuff. It just takes a while to kind of trickle down. This year it's going to be worse. Fertilizer prices are still increasing. Here's an article here that they're expected that this year, 2022, fertilizer prices to increase by 80% over last year. Now, you just saw that chart that I put up last year. Last year's fertilizer prices were anywhere between 40 and 50%, and more than that towards the end. But I'm talking about during the average planting season of last year, fertilizer prices were already up 40 and 50%. And this year they're saying they're going to be up 80% over last year. This is fertilizer prices, folks. For a lot of you, you're in the same boat as we are. You know, we have what would be considered a small garden compared to a big farm operation. And maybe some of you are like us. We don't use, you know, chemical products on our garden. But the point is if we did, it wouldn't be that big of a hit for us to use fertilizer on our garden. But we're talking about farms that have thousands and thousands of acres. The vast majority of the food that come out of your grocery stores come from those big farms. And where they're having to buy fertilizer for those acreages that they're planting, we're talking lots and lots of money. One study out of Texas A&M said that the average farm should see about $128,000 increase in costs. Now, some of you aren't farmers. Some of you have never been around farming, but the ones that are, even the big farmers, I think you can back me up on this. You see these big farms and they own thousands of acres. They have these big $1 million tractors and stuff. It doesn't mean that they're worth millions of dollars because they also have millions of dollars in debt for all that they're doing. They're having to buy money. Most of these big farms, they're having to borrow money every year to plant so that they can have the money to plant their seeds, plant their crop, fertilize everything. They got to go borrow money so that they can do it, and then they'll pay it off at the end of the season when they sell the crop. So adding another $128,000 and possibly more to the cost of doing business for these farms, number one, could break a lot of these farms. There's going to be farms, and I've already seen reports of farmers that are just not able to stay in business anymore because the cost to do business is just skyrocketing. This is just one thing. We're just talking about fertilizer today. This isn't all the other stuff that it costs them to do business. Everything's gone up. So how many farmers aren't going to even be able to plant this year? How much acreage is it possible that's not even going to get planted this year? That's the first thing. The second thing, and the big one is the cost once you go to the grocery store is already high. We already know that. Food costs, this 7% inflation, we know that that's baloney, because we're going to the store and we're paying the prices. We know that the average food prices have increased anywhere between 15 and 35 and maybe even 50% on some items. How much higher is that food going to be once it trickles down, because these farmers are having to pay 80, 100%? They're paying 2 and 3 times the price in some places for fertilizer than they did 2 or 3 years ago. They're paying astronomical prices just to put the fertilizer down. And again, this is just one item. Now, it's a big component to modern farming, but it is just one. We're not figuring in the cost of increase in all the other areas that they're doing. This is just the fertilizer. Folks, we could very possibly see some major catastrophic things happen this year when it comes to food. Just pause for one moment and think about this. We're dealing with the highest inflation this country's ever seen. Don't look at what they're saying that, it's only the highest in 40 years. Current inflation numbers by many, many experts, because they figure the inflation rate correctly, are saying that the current inflation rate is way higher than it was in the 70s and 80s. Okay, so we're dealing with the highest inflation rate. We're dealing with people that they're not working. The jobs, they're not going to work. They're not going back to work. We're having a major shortage in workers. We're dealing with a supply chain that's just constantly getting dings and dents and hits and crumbles. We talked the other day about China. They're locking down ports. They're locking down port cities because of the bug going around. And of course, we're starting to see that here. So that's affecting the economy, and that's affecting the supply chain. We've got weather stuff, okay? The weather's just been off. We know that. We know that because we're in solar cycle, was it 25? We're in the grand solar minimum. So we're seeing that, and that's affecting things. And you take all that and a few other stuff, and you add to that the fertilizer costs for these farmers are 2, 3, and sometimes 4 times as high as what they were paying just a few years ago. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm fear-mongering, because that's not it. But I'm telling you, we are setting ourselves up for such a perfect storm when it comes to food that I don't think most people have any concept whatsoever. It's getting to a very critical stage, I believe. And so I don't want people to get scared. I don't want people to panic. I want you to think level-headed. I want you to be serious about this when it comes to prepping up your food. I want you to be serious about when it comes to producing your own food, getting out there and expanding that garden, putting a garden out to begin with, because some of you still aren't doing that. And the ones that are, push it to the limits. Do more, okay? Animals, chickens, whatever you can do, get out there and produce more food if you can, because this could be the year. I don't think it's necessarily the apocalyptic year when it comes to food, but I guarantee you there's a strong possibility that 2022 could be a major turning point in American and global history when it comes to food. Famine level food reductions and astronomical food prices. We could certainly see that this year when you look at all these factors that are playing into it. And then now that we're going to see even higher fertilizer prices over last year. Last year, it was hard for a lot of farmers to do business and to make money and to keep their debts paid off. This year, it's going to be worse. Fertilizer prices are still going up as we speak. They've kind of, at some point I saw one news article saying that they're not rising at the same rate. That the rate of rise has slowed down a little bit, but they're still going up. And there's no indicator that they're going to just start crashing anytime soon. And so when you think about the vast majority of the food that Americans eat comes from these big farms that use lots and lots of fertilizer. I'm not advocating the use of fertilizer. I'm just saying that most of the food in your grocery stores are directly affected by the price of fertilizer, and it's going up substantially on top of all the other things that are happening in the economy and the supply chain This is not setting up for a good thing, folks. Get yourselves ready. Get stocked up. Get out there. Push your gardens to the limits if you can this year. Look at other animals to add into or other things that you can do to be producing your own food, because up until now, it's been a hobby. It's been educational for a lot of you. It's been good training for a lot of you. But it's very possible that we are getting closer to that time where it's going to be critical for your survival, critical for just your well-being to be producing your own food. All right, folks, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.